The studio lights burned hot, casting sharp shadows across the polished stage. Karoline Leavitt stood tall, her smile tight as she faced a sea of eager faces. Her talk show, Truth on Fire, was known for sparking fights, and tonight, the crowd buzzed with anticipation. She adjusted her blazer, her eyes narrowing as she prepared to introduce her guest. The audience sensed a storm brewing. "Ladies and gentlemen," Karoline began, her voice smooth but edged with steel, "tonight we have a man who thinks he's bigger than this planet. Elon Musk, the billionaire who wants to ditch Earth for Mars. Let's see if he can handle the heat. Down here!" The crowd cheered, some jeering as Musk strode onto the stage. His suit was crisp, but his smirk screamed defiance. He waved briefly, then sat, legs crossed, like he owned the place. Karoline didn't waste time. "Elon, you've got this grand plan to colonize Mars. You talk about it like Earth's just a stepping stone you're ready to kick aside. Care to explain why you think our home isn't worth saving?" Her words were sharp, her stare sharper. The audience leaned forward, sensing blood. Musk leaned back, his grin widening. "Karoline, Earth's a mess because people cling to old problems. Resource scarcity, pollution, wars. It's all noise. Mars is a clean slate. I'm building a future where we don't waste time on a dying rock." His tone was casual, but the insult to Earth landed like a slap. The crowd gasped, some booing loudly. Karoline's jaw tightened. "A dying rock? That's what you call the home of billions? You think you can just walk away from our problems because you've got money to burn?" Her voice rose, venom seeping through. She stepped closer, pointing a finger. "This is why people can't stand you, Elon. You talk like you're above us all." Musk didn't flinch. He leaned forward, eyes glinting. "I'm not above anyone, Karoline. I'm just ahead. You're stuck in the mud, crying about problems I'm already solving. Mars isn't a dream, it's a plan. You should thank me for giving humanity a backup." His words dripped with arrogance, and the crowd roared, some cheering his boldness, others shouting him down. Karoline laughed, but it was cold, cutting. "Thank you for abandoning us? You're not a savior, Elon. You're a coward running from responsibility." She turned to the audience, arms wide. "This man thinks he can buy his way out of Earth's troubles and leave the rest of us to rot." The crowd erupted, clapping and yelling, feeding off her fury. Musk shot to his feet, towering over her. "You're twisting my words, Karoline. I'm not leaving anyone behind. I'm building a future for everyone. You're too small-minded to see it." His voice boomed, his face red. The audience hushed, caught in the raw hostility. The air felt electric, ready to spark. Karoline stepped right up to him, unflinching. "Small-minded? You're the one who thinks throwing cash at a red desert fixes everything. You don't get to lecture me, Elon. This is my show, and I'm not here to worship your ego." Her words were a blade, slicing through his bravado. The crowd roared again, some chanting her name. Musk's eyes narrowed, his smirk gone. "Your show? It's a circus, and you're the ringmaster, shouting for attention. I came here to talk facts, not play your game." He crossed his arms, refusing to sit, daring her to push harder. Karoline's smile was pure ice. "Facts? All I hear is a rich man dodging reality. You want to talk Mars? Fine. Let's talk about how your big speech ignores everyone who can't afford a ticket to your fantasy." She turned to the crowd, her voice a whip. "Should we let him keep preaching or show him what we think of his nonsense?" The audience exploded, their cheers and boos shaking the studio. Musk stood firm, his glare locked on Karoline. He wasn't backing down, and neither was she. The fight was just beginning, and the stage felt like a battlefield, ready to ignite. The studio pulsed with raw energy, the audience's cheers and boos a living thing, egging on the fight. Karoline Leavitt stood inches from Elon Musk, her eyes blazing, refusing to let his arrogance slide. The stage felt smaller now, like a boxing ring where only one could walk away. She pointed at him, her voice a controlled burn, ready to tear into his grand Mars escape. "You stand there, Elon, calling Earth a lost cause," Karoline said, her words sharp as glass. "But let's talk about what you're ignoring. Families are starving because crops are failing. Cities are choking on dirty air. People are fighting over the last drops of clean water. And you? You're building rocket ships to run away. Tell me, how does Mars fix that?" She crossed her arms, daring him to answer. Musk's face twitched, his calm cracking. He stepped closer, looming over her, his voice low and biting. "You're painting me as the villain, Karoline, but you're missing the point. Earth's problems are old, stubborn, and messy. Mars is a fresh start. We'll grow food there, clean air, endless water from ice. I'm not running. I'm building solutions you can't even imagine." His hands slashed the air, dismissing her accusations. The crowd murmured, some nodding at his vision, others shouting him down. Karoline seized the moment, her laugh sharp and mocking. "Solutions? You're selling dreams to people who can't eat promises. My cousin's farm dried up last year, Elon. He lost everything. You think he cares about your Martian ice? Tell him why his pain doesn't matter to you." Her voice shook with real anger, her finger jabbing at his chest. Musk's eyes flashed, his temper flaring. "Don't make this personal, Karoline. Your cousin's farm isn't my fault. I'm not God, I can't fix every sob story. I'm looking at the big picture, something you clearly can't handle." He smirked, but it was cruel, meant to wound. The audience gasped, shocked at his callousness, and a few yelled insults. Karoline's face went white, then red. She stepped so close their shoes nearly touched, her voice a hiss. "You're right, Elon, you're not God. You're just a man with too much money and not enough heart. You don't get to brush off real people's suffering because it doesn't fit your shiny future." She turned to the crowd, her arms wide, voice rising. "This is who he is, folks. A man who'd rather fly away than face the mess down here." The audience roared, their voices a wave of fury and support. Some stood, clapping for Karoline, while others shouted at Musk, calling him cold. He didn't back down, his jaw tight, eyes locked on her. "You're good at riling them up, Karoline," he snapped, his voice like a whip. "But you're dodging the truth. Earth's sinking because people like you keep fighting the same old fights. I'm offering a way out, and you're too bitter to see it." "Bitter," Karoline shot back, her voice a blade. "I'm fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. You're fighting for your own glory. Tell me, Elon, how many billions are you spending on Mars while kids go hungry right now?" She paused, letting the question hang, the crowd's murmurs growing louder, angrier. Musk's hands clenched, his voice rising to a growl. "You want to play hero? Fine. But don't act like I'm the enemy. My companies feed thousands of jobs. My tech pushes us forward. You're just a loudmouth with a microphone, stirring up trouble to feel important." His words were venom, aimed to cut deep, and the crowd booed, their anger now a living force. Karoline didn't flinch. She smiled, but it was dangerous, her eyes never leaving his. "A loudmouth? At least I'm speaking for the people in this room, not some fantasy colony. You've got 5 seconds to explain why your Mars plan helps a single soul here, or I'll show you what trouble really looks like." Her voice was steady, but the threat was clear, the air thick with expectation. The audience leaned forward, breathless, as Musk's face hardened. He wasn't used to being cornered, and his silence stretched, heavy and charged. The stage was a powder keg, and Karoline's challenge was the spark, ready to set it all ablaze. The studio air crackled, thick with the weight of Karoline Leavitt's challenge. Her ultimatum hung like a blade over Elon Musk, his silence deafening as the audience held its breath. The stage lights glared down, exposing every twitch on his face. Karoline stood firm, her stare unyielding, daring him to answer why his Mars plan mattered to the people in the room. The crowd's murmurs grew restless, hungry for his response. Musk finally spoke, his voice tight, like he was forcing the words out. "You want an answer, Karoline? Fine. Mars isn't just a planet, it's hope. It's a place where we can fix what's broken here. My companies are already testing ways to grow food in harsh conditions, purify water, build homes. That tech will come back to Earth, help your cousin's farm, clean your cities. I'm not ignoring anyone, I'm planning for everyone." He spread his arms, trying to reclaim the stage, but his tone was shaky, less certain than before. Karoline pounced, her voice a razor. "Hope? You're selling fairy tales, Elon. Your tech's years away if it even works. Right now, people need food, not promises. You're standing here waving your billions while families lose their homes. How's that hope?" She stepped forward, closing the gap, her words relentless. "You can't name one person in this room. Your plan helps today. Not one." The audience erupted, clapping and shouting, their voices a wall of agreement. Musk's face flushed, his hands balling into fists. He tried again, his voice louder, desperate. "You're wrong. My work creates jobs, thousands of them. Engineers, builders, scientists. They're all eating because of me. You act like I'm stealing, but I'm giving back more than you ever will." His words were sharp, but they faltered, and the crowd sensed weakness, their boos growing louder. Karoline's smile was cold, predatory. "Jobs? For your elite crew, maybe. What about the factory workers laid off because your machines took over? Or the towns dying because your projects skipped them? You're not giving, Elon, you're taking. And you're too proud to admit it." She turned to the crowd, her voice rising. "He thinks his money makes him untouchable, but we see the truth, don't we?" The audience roared, their cheers shaking the studio. Musk's eyes darted, his composure cracking. He stepped back, gripping the arm of his chair, his voice a snarl. "You're twisting everything, Karoline. I'm trying to save humanity, and you're turning it into a witch hunt. You don't care about truth, you just want to tear me down." His words were venom, but they sounded desperate, like a man cornered. Karoline didn't let up. "Save humanity? By running to Mars? You're saving yourself, Elon. The rest of us are just collateral damage in your big adventure." She pointed at him, her voice a whip. "Admit it, you don't care about the people here. You never did." The crowd was on its feet now, chanting her name, their energy feeding her fire. Musk's face twisted, his control snapping. "Enough!" he shouted, his voice booming over the noise. In a flash, he grabbed the chair beside him and slammed it down, the metal screeching against the stage. The crowd gasped, stunned into silence, as the crew froze, unsure what to do. The chair wobbled, then stilled, but the shock lingered, the air heavy with fear and excitement. Karoline didn't flinch, but her eyes widened, then narrowed. "You done throwing tantrums, Elon?" she said, her voice low, dangerous. "Or do you want to break something else to prove you're a big man?" The audience murmured, some cheering her nerve, others still reeling from Musk's outburst. The crew whispered, cameras zooming in, capturing every second. Musk's chest heaved, his glare locked on her. "You push too far, Karoline," he growled, his voice barely controlled. "You think you're winning, but you're just making noise. I'm done playing your game." He took a step toward her, and the crowd tensed, sensing the fight was far from over. Karoline held her ground, her voice steady, cutting. "My game? This is about truth, Elon, and you're running from it. Keep breaking chairs, but you can't break the facts." The stage was a battlefield, and she was ready for war. The studio buzzed with raw tension, the echo of the slammed chair still ringing in the air. Karoline Leavitt stood like a general, her eyes locked on Elon Musk, who glared back, his face a mask of barely contained rage. The audience was electric. some whispering in shock, others cheering Karoline's defiance. The crew hovered, cameras tight on the scene, knowing this moment could define the show. Karoline saw her chance and seized it, ready to turn Musk's meltdown into her victory. She stepped to the edge of the stage, her voice clear and fierce. "Look at him, folks," she said, pointing at Musk without breaking eye contact. "Big man, with big plans, but when you challenge him, he throws a fit like a child. That's who's promising to save us. A man who can't handle a tough question?" The crowd roared, their laughter sharp, cutting. Some clapped, others jeered at Musk, their voices a wave of scorn. Musk's jaw clenched, his hands twitching at his sides. He took a step forward, his voice a low growl. "You're good at this, Karoline, twisting my every move. But you're not fooling anyone. This isn't about truth. It's about you needing to feel powerful. You're nothing without this crowd, cheering your name." His words were a jab, meant to sting, but they lacked the fire of before, and the audience sensed it, their boos drowning him out. Karoline laughed, but it was fierce, not amused. "Powerful? I'm standing up for people you've written off, Elon. You're the one who needs worship, with your Mars dreams and your temper tantrums." She gestured to the chair, still askew from his outburst. "That's your legacy right there. A broken chair and a broken argument. You've got nothing left." The crowd erupted, chanting, "Karoline, Karoline," their voices shaking the studio walls. Musk's face burned red, his desperation clear. He spun to the audience, arms wide, his voice rising to a shout. "You think she's your hero? She's using you, feeding you lies to keep you angry. I'm the one building a future while she's stuck screaming about the past." He pointed at Karoline, his finger trembling. "You're a fraud, Leavitt, hiding behind your microphone, pretending you care. Name one thing you've done for these people, besides yell." The crowd gasped, then booed louder, his attack falling flat. Karoline's eyes flashed, but she kept her cool, stepping closer, her voice steady and venomous. "A fraud? I'm here every night, fighting for people who can't. Fight back! You? You're hiding on your private jets, dreaming of Mars while Earth burns. You don't get to question me, Elon, not after that stunt." She pointed at the chair again, and the audience cheered, their energy a living force behind her. Musk's control slipped further. He grabbed the edge of the desk, leaning toward her, his voice a snarl. "You're obsessed with tearing me down, but you're blind to what I'm building. My companies give hope, jobs, progress. You're just a loud voice in a cheap suit, dragging everyone backward." His insult was desperate, personal, and the crowd hissed, some shouting insults back at him. Karoline's smile was pure steel. "Cheap suit? At least I'm not buying my way out of reality. You've insulted every person here, Elon, and now you're insulting me because you're losing." She turned to the audience, her voice a rallying cry. "Should we keep listening to this man, or send him back to his rocket factory where he belongs?" The crowd roared, their answer clear, some standing, clapping, demanding action. Musk's eyes widened, realizing he'd overplayed his hand. He straightened, trying to regain control, but his voice shook. "You don't scare me, Karoline. Kick me off, and you prove you can't handle the truth. I'm here for the future, not your circus." He crossed his arms, daring her, but the crowd's fury was overwhelming, their chants for Karoline drowning him out. Karoline stepped right up to him, her voice low, deadly. "You've had your say, Elon, and all you've done is prove you're out of touch. One more word, and you're gone. This is my stage, and I'm done with your nonsense." The audience held its breath, the air thick with anticipation, as Musk's face twitched, his next move uncertain. The studio was a cauldron of noise, the audience's chants for Karoline Leavitt a thunderous tide against Elon Musk. Her ultimatum hung heavy, her words a blade poised to strike. She stood close to him, her gaze unrelenting, daring him to speak. Again. Musk's face was a storm of frustration, his pride battered but not broken. The crowd leaned forward, sensing the final clash, their cheers a pulse that shook the stage. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of emotion, as the crew braced for what came next. Musk took a deep breath, his voice rising, reckless and raw. "You think you've won, Karoline? You're wrong. I'm not here for your approval, or your mob's cheers. I'm here because I see what's coming, a future where Earth chokes and Mars thrives. You can kick me off, but you can't stop progress. My name will outlast your little show." He jabbed a finger at her, then the audience, his words a desperate bid to reclaim control. "You're all too scared to dream big, and I'm done wasting my time on cowards." The crowd exploded, their boos a deafening roar, some shouting insults, others standing to jeer. Karoline's eyes narrowed, her patience gone. She stepped forward, her voice a whip, cutting through the chaos. "Cowards? You're the one hiding behind excuses, Elon. You call it progress, I call it running away. You've insulted these people, this planet, and now you're begging for a legacy? Pathetic." Her words were ice, each one a blow, and the audience cheered, their voices a wall of support. Musk's face twisted, his hands shaking. "You don't get it, Karoline. I'm building something bigger than you, bigger than this room. You're just noise, a distraction from what matters." He turned to the crowd, his voice cracking with desperation. "Wake up! She's feeding you anger, not answers. I'm your way forward." But his plea fell flat, the audience's boos drowning him, their loyalty firmly with Karoline. She seized the moment, her voice booming, fierce and final. "Enough, Elon. You've had your chance, and all you've done is prove you're out of touch. This isn't your stage anymore. You don't get to lecture us, not after your tantrums, your insults, your empty promises." She pointed to the side of the stage, her voice a command. "Get out, now! We're done with you!" The crowd roared, clapping and chanting her name, their energy a tidal wave. Musk froze, his eyes wide, stunned by the finality. He opened his mouth, but no words came. The crew stepped forward, two burly men in headsets, ready to escort him. The audience's cheers grew louder, a triumphant surge, as Karoline stood tall, unyielding. Musk's shoulders slumped, his defiance crumbling. He turned, glaring one last time, then walked off, the crew trailing him, the crowd's jeers chasing him into the shadows. Karoline faced the audience, her face alight with victory. "That, my friends, is what happens when you face the truth head-on," she said, her voice strong, lifting the room. "We don't need fancy rockets or billionaires to save us. We need heart, grit, and the will to fight for our home, right here, right now." She raised a fist, and the crowd leapt to its feet, their applause shaking the studio, their faces alive with pride. She walked to the center of the stage, her smile fierce but warm. "This is our planet, our fight. We're not a dying rock, we're a living home, and we'll keep it that way, together." The audience cheered louder, some wiping tears, others clapping until their hands hurt. The lights blazed, the cameras caught every second, and Karoline stood as their champion, her victory complete. The show ended with the crowd still roaring, their voices a testament to her triumph. Karoline had faced a giant and won, not with money or power, but with courage and truth. The studio felt alive, the moment unforgettable, a story that would echo far beyond the stage.